What's up? What's up?
What's up,
Mr.
everybody?
Bonnie?
What was that?
I said, what's up? Long time no talk.
I know, man. Miss you. It's hard to get through the day. And then at 2 o'clock on Tuesday, everything seems to be better.
It all just falls in line. I couldn't agree more.
Like,
Just kidding, guys. We're done with all that soft stuff. We're here to be talking about this is a really cool transition side. So if you guys have joined us in, I think this is the last four sessions as we were going through, we've went through ultimately the perfect buyer's journey. And those three check boxes that you guys need to check, that your client needs to check. And now we're going to be talking about something you see your screen, right? The zombie sales rep. And I'm going to position this, and I'll probably say this a couple times, is that I was asked, this was a long time back, when I will say, when I first took a leadership role within service, there's a training that we went, they said, who is your worst competition? Or who is the most extreme competition? Who is your competitor? And they started naming off all of these big companies, right, that were local, around, national, all that stuff. And it came back. And what he said obviously still sticks with me today. He goes, no, it's your customer's worst experience. And that is what your customer is trying to stop from happening. It's not all of these people that are great. It's everything that they're trying to say, this is never going to happen again. Or the customers that say, something extreme. I promise you, they're not trying to be jerks. It's that they've probably been through some horrible experience and they said, you know what? I'm never going to let that happen again. Right. Or the customer that says, you guys can't step on this roof unless I have your certificate of insurance. There's probably a reason behind that, guys. And then this is the beauty of like the perfect buyer's journey is that probe, right? All right, talk to me. What, I will get you a COI, but can you talk to me about like, did something happen? Right. And it allows you to be able to understand what your customer's worst experience is. So that's part of what we're going to be going through today, which is the zombie sales rep, which is and we'll talk about this. What is a zombie sales rep? So I'm not gonna spoil it. We're gonna go into it. But kind of as everybody comes in, welcome y'all. This is a great transition week to be here because we're going to be taking everything that we've learned ultimately through the perfect buyer's journey and applying that into what we consider or call the zombie sales rep. So welcome. David, anything you want to add to that, sir?
oh, I think that was beautifully done.
Look at that. I've been rehearsing all day to get that perfect. Cool. All right, so we'll get started inside a few minutes as everyone drops in. Thank you guys for showing up. This is number five, right? So session number five. And I say number five because we went through the perfect buyer's journey, and that's ultimately taken us through three. And the first one was a kickoff. Why are we here? What are we trying to accomplish? And really the introduction to becoming that trusted advisor. And that really is what me personally, that's my end goal is that when I work with the customer, I want them to trust me as if I'm making decisions with them, right on the same side of the table as them. And I guess it really comes back to trust, right? I want to be trusted that I'm not just going to sell them something that they have to have, or I'm going to make them buy something they don't need to have. I guess that's my personal side. For what it's worth. Happy Tuesday. Welcome to 2 o'clock hour Central.
Well, and I
And
think I was talking about this with one of our reps today. It's just this subtle thing where we talk about this message all the time, but he was like, we're doing halftime on some of his deals. And he's like, well, what if I tell them they might not need this? Is that going to ruin the sale? And it's like, guys, our job is to help them solve their biggest problems. It's not our job to sell stuff. But we default, like you hear this and you internalize, you say, yeah, that's true. But then we go and we show up in a different way. And they smell it on us. They know we're just trying to sling them a roof. They know that we're just trying to get them to buy our stuff. And it comes across in the questions that we ask, but more importantly, guys, it comes across in the questions that we don't ask. When we don't push that much further, when we don't get clarity in that area, when we don't just say, why would you do this then? This isn't really causing an issue. Why bother with this? I'm sure you have other stuff you can spend money on, right? But then the reaction is constantly, well, but you know, what if they hear me say that and then they decide not to buy? Yeah. They were ready to spend $20,000, but because you said that, now they're like, nah, you know what? I had not considered that, Chad. I had not considered not spending this $20,000. And now that you said that, I think I'm just going to go ahead and keep this $20,000. No, guys, that is not what happens. And I love this rep, so I'm not making fun um, of our conversation. I'm certainly not making fun of him. I'm making fun of how we all think, because we all think this way. I certainly used to. And it's taken me a long time to be able to get to the other side of it, but we're trying to help you guys fast track. If you guys would just help them identify their biggest problems and then help them solve those, you're going to save yourself a ton of grief of slinging quotes out there that ultimately don't convert.
And I guess my initial response is, did we ever have the sale? Right? Because it's like, I hope he signs the piece of paper before he realizes he doesn't need to do it.
Yeah.
And that's not a trusted advisor, right? Like that's not where I'm trying to go. I talk about like being trusted and sitting on the same side of the table. I'm not saying that we're not going to, right? But it's asking those questions. It's all of those little details, right? And we've said this inside some of the past. If your customer has questions or objections or concerns or anything like that after you've put the proposal in their hands, that's not good, right? Because you are no longer helping your customer or guiding your customer to making the right decisions. Now they're on their own. You're not there, and they have three different proposals. They don't understand any of the three, right? Because they're not buying professionals, they're not roofing professionals. That's you guys. And that's when it gets scary, right? That's when your customer all of a sudden says, hey, you guys are high price. You guys are the highest price. Okay, well, we're all choosing from the same labor pool, right? We're all buying from the same suppliers, and we all have somewhat of a similar profitability here. How are we high, right? And the highest of everybody. So it really comes into diving deep, right, into all of this. And that's what we're here to do. So this went deeper than I thought it would, but that's
No, it's
okay.
good. But also the thing is, guys, remember when we talk about the service side, the and this is the last thing I'll say. The whole point of the service game is for us to be able to create relationships, create partnerships, and build a book of business. And you're not going to build a book of business when you're just trying to get people to sign off on repairs. It's just not going to happen. You're going to build your book of business through creating that trusted relationship and through helping them do. And then that's what leads to the capital. That's what ultimately leads to the capital projects and the bigger opportunities. But I think as we're doing this, it's such a huge gut check for us to make sure that we're having that conversation with ourselves before we go into the conversation. And just like Chad said, the the uh, the process of discovering and disqualifying this stuff, you can't be afraid of it. You just can't be. And if you're afraid of it, we want you guys to reach out to us. We want to have a conversation with you about it, because we're trying to build you guys into reps for the long haul, where you're building a book of business with trusted relationships, where you have a large share of wallet with those clients, and your hunting is slowly moving over to farming. Not even slowly, but your hunting, the amount of hunting you're doing is moving over to farming because you're generating more and more business from those initial relationships, and not trying to hit home runs all the time.
And that's how you become a multi-million dollar sales rep. You hit the nail on the head, man. Is that you hunt to be able to find the customers, then you scale with those customers, right? Gaining trust, gaining more of their properties, and then you start managing the relationship, right? And we're no longer trying to grow and find new ones, but now we have these customers that have a lot of properties, that have a lot of annual spend, right? When I say annual spend, it means that they're spending a lot of money on roofing, and sometimes we underestimate that, right? How much our customers actually spend on roofing, because we say, oh, they spent $50,000. Well, how do I know that? Because they spent $50,000 with me. Now, it doesn't count and this is a real world. So just real quick, I'll give you guys real world of it's not a fail on my side, but this is 100% real. This is when I was working for a different company and I had the opportunity to choose what I wanted to go after. It was the service side or it was the replacement side. And I had that option because this company had a very strict policy that you could not inspect the buildings and do the replacements. So it had to be completely separate, right? So if you guys have lived in the world that I'm talking about, you understand. But you could not do both. So I did not ask the right questions 100% because I was like, service. Service is where I want to be. So I went out there. I got a preventative maintenance program. It was, I want to say 200 some locations. It was massive, right? So 200 some locations where we got preventative maintenance set up. I also had an open PO that was for all the repairs. I mean, everything was beautiful. I thought it was awesome. I think we did $350,000 worth of repairs for this client. I thought I was great until I asked the one question of how much did you spend the entire year? Remember my spend 350,000. Do you know what the number was? 10 million. I am not joking, you guys. $10 million is what he spent. I was happy with 350,000 because I didn't know what they were really spending. All of those capital projects that they had, and they had literally two contractors bidding on $10 million worth of work, which means if I got half of it, it was 5 million.
Mm.
And I guess that's my side of like when I thought I understood, right, what the net worth of a company was until I asked that question. It was just like, oh, what was I doing? So that's my 1% better. Ask the question. Don't think you know what it is.
Yep.
So cool. We good to go, David?
Do it.
Now that we've announced my massive fail and all that, now you guys know I left $9 million on the board. All right, let's do this. I'm not going to live that life anymore. So we're moving on. Welcome to No Reps Left Behind, guys. If you are here, thank you very, very much. The goal of No Reps Left Behind is to be able to raise the floor. So just like we started with the zombie sales rep, we're going to talk about what a zombie sales rep is, and hopefully you can put yourself in a yes or no category to, am I living that life? Our job is to be able to help you guys get better, and we're doing that through this training, right? Typically, you would pay somewhere upwards of $10,000+ to be able to learn a sales process or what I would consider a qualification or disqualification process, because that's what we're trying to do. Make sure the best opportunities end up in our book of business. And that's what No Reps is. My name's Chad Westbrook. I am the founder of Service Alignment. If you haven't checked it out, please do it because my goal is to be able to help build world-class teams. And service is the incubator, much like David said a couple minutes ago, to capital projects. A roof is going to leak 100 times plus, right? Depending on what it is, until the customer gets to a point where they're like, I'm not dealing with this anymore. I'm done with roof leaks. We're replacing the roof. I'm sick of this. It costs me too much money or whatever the pain point is. And that's why service is great because it puts you there first. And that's what my career has been about. I've led some of the largest preventative maintenance programs inside the United States. I've grown a national account division that did about $18 million a year when I left. They were doing 1,000 service tickets a month, guys, 1,000 per month. So the idea of service being that incubator is not just an idea, it's something that I've done. And that's what I'm feeding back into you guys is what does that process look like? How do I do it? And there's one little tweak to this. Someone else is here that has a massive, massive value to not just, hey, I'm a great roofing salesman, but putting it into a process. And that's where I'll let David take controls, talk about your background, sir, and how your methodology ties into all this to make it this what it is.
Yeah. So, guys, I come from the billion-dollar software startup world. Last company that I was with was valued at $1 billion. I started with them when they were at about 3 to 5 million roughly. And as you're going on that journey, let's just make it more round from 5 million up to 100 million. You've got to be able to start to systematize stuff. You can't. The term is heroics don't scale. And when we look at it in sales, your guys' ability to bring moxie to the table and your ability to have that swagger when you wake up in the morning, where you get in front of, just bring the energy to your prospects and almost will them to buy. Well, first of all, it's not real. But second of all, whatever you're doing in that process, whatever that moxie is, it's not repeatable. And that's where we get these ups and downs, guys. And it's no secret that sales has the shortest tenure of any role, from the executive level all the way down to the front level. It just has the shortest tenure because it's not built to do consistently, month over month, quarter over quarter, year over year. And that's where it was different for me, and my ability to be able to scale those heroics and build those systems is the stuff that we're bringing you today. And it's formulated for commercial roofing. I've been involved in the commercial roofing for probably 8 years now. I met Chad about 6 years ago. We've been doing a lot of work in this industry, and we've been doing a lot of work with salespeople. And my call sign is humble, hungry, and sharp. And one of the reasons why I love commercial roofing is because it is a very humble industry. You don't have a bunch of arrogant people floating around you have people that just want to get in and want to do good work, and they want to learn, and they don't think that they're the best thing since sliced bread. And it's been a great opportunity for me to be able to spend time with reps that see the opportunity and teams that see the opportunity to raise the bar, like Chad is always saying, raise the floor on what's possible. And from our position, because your prospects will feel it, guys. They will feel it. Everybody's trying to sling a price at them. And when you show up differently, they will see that, and they will gravitate towards you. But you have to just be able to do what we're asking you to do. That's the first thing. And the second thing is you have to ask the questions. You have to ask the questions. Again, in a conversation that I had with a rep today, he was asking such great questions at a deeper level. Yeah, I hear you, David, but what about this? Fair question. Here's the answer. Okay. And either we're going to help you see things differently, or we're going to break a false belief pattern in this, but you got to ask the questions. You got to engage. You got to listen to what we're telling you, and know that there's 30 plus years of experience between Chad and I that's bringing you all of this in very complicated and demanding environments. This is not just stuff that was thrown together. This stuff has been tested so many times over. Bring your questions, get active in the chat. I'm here. Chat will be there. We'll be responding. This is your one time every single week on Tuesdays to get everything you need to have the best week possible.
Love it. Love it. Love it. All right. So, David, you talked about raising the bar and then raising the floor. And I do want to talk about the differences in that.
Yeah.
Raising the bar means that you're going to make the goal higher, which means if you can't reach the bar right now, and that means you as a sales rep, a leader, a manager, whatever it is, if you're like, man, I'm under goal right now, like I'm not hitting where I need to be. And then I say, hey, we're going to increase our goal by 250,000. Or if it's a team, 2 million. And
That's
you're
right.
like, I hit it right now. How am I going to do that? Right. So what David brings to the table and what he talks about right here is really comes down to this question. And David, please correct me if it's wrong. You guys know what you sell right now on an annual basis. Next year, I want you to double it. Double it. Do you have anxiety? Are you like, man, that's not possible? Or are you part of the 1% who's like, yeah, no problem. I got that. I can double it. I can double it every year. That's nearly impossible. Okay, so what we're telling you is not to complete the impossible inside here, but to be able to have a plan. And raising the floor means making everybody better. And everybody on this call has the opportunity to leave this, whether you just take away a small nugget or the whole thing, great, grand. You guys have the ability to do it. So my request to you guys up front is help us spread the word. We're on LinkedIn, Facebook. I mean, I don't care if you send an email, right? Introduce wherever it is. My main purpose here is to be able to feed back into you guys for everything that I've done throughout the last 20 years, combined in the methodology and the technology that David brings to the table, as well as the ability to be able to say he's literally sat here and taken sales rep and increased 200,000, or I'm sorry, 200%, not 200,000. I was on that side, 200% year over year, right? And to be able to do that with not having to work double the hours, it's working smarter, understanding what opportunities are truly in your pipeline or your funnel. And it's not just a bunch of crap where you're slinging proposals and hoping that someone awards the job. Right. If you guys have ever been inside the point to where you have a very, very strong week or month or wherever it is, you almost get confidence at the point to say, hey, I don't need this lead. I don't need this. I don't need this. I got my goals. I got my clients.
Yep.
And that's the feeling that I want you guys to have, right? Every day, every week, every month. That's what I want to feed into you, is that feeling that I got to be able to say, you know what? I'm on top of the world because I know where my sales are coming from. I'm going to hit my goals. And if something crappy comes in, you're like, nah, I got more important stuff to spend my time on. That's the confidence I want you guys to have from this.
Yep.
So here's where we're going to start, right? So we'll talk about that sales rep, right? Or the zombie sales rep and where that is. But we're going to go back really to the beginning, because habit is going to be your guys' best friend. When you start thinking about a sales process, right, it should be something along the lines, or if not, this 4D sales process: discovery, diagnosis, demonstration. And we do all of this for one reason, is to be able to drive a decision. So when we talk about discovery, what I'm talking about here is going in and listening. No one cares how long you've been inside business, who you are, maybe probably not even your name, because they got a problem that they need solved, right? Or they have a goal that they're trying to get to. Or maybe, you know what, let's talk worst case scenario. They don't have a problem, they don't have a goal, and then it's your job to educate them on how you're going to help them maintain that asset. And it really is that simple: problem, goal, education. The one part you do not want to do is fear. Don't go down the storm chasing fear side of, you got damage up on that roof, and if you don't take care of it, blah, 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 right? That's not a trusted advisor. That's not what we're here to do. You have a problem? Great, we can help you. Do you have a goal? Awesome, we can help you get there, right? Once we understand what that vision is. And if not, it takes us into the educational side. How are we going to help them manage that asset? And we'll go into that obviously a little deeper. The diagnosis side is, once you get on the roof, we call it the buyer seller disconnect, because ultimately, once you get on the roof, you're trying to sell roof deficiencies, and your customer's just trying to repair their roof. And we have a really cool image that's not pulled inside here, right? But it's like the roofer wants to sell roof repairs, and all the business owner wants is the stained ceiling tiles fixed, or the safety issue on the floor to be gone, or maybe the damaged product to not happen. And it becomes this massive disconnect, that they can have literally the worst roof in the world, but if they don't have any roof leaks, a lot of times that takes us back to checkpoint one we're going to talk about, which is the problem is not big enough to act. And that's what we're focusing on, right? That diagnosis is ultimately looking at what your customer's reality is, and then taking the roof deficiencies and connecting that. Because we're not just fixing roof deficiencies, right? We're getting their business back online. We're making sure those ceiling tiles aren't leaked, that the product is not damaged. That's what a trusted advisor does, is he understands how to merge or kind of mesh those two worlds, so that buyer seller disconnect doesn't exist. Finally, demonstration, right? So we went through that last week. The demonstration part of this is really where you guys execute your special sauce. What makes you unique? And I'll say, really, what separates you from all of the rest? What separates you from the noise of every single contractor laying a proposal on the desk saying that's a 60 mil TPO with a fully tapered system for $572,000? Because if your proposal is the exact same thing, just a different number on the bottom, you've been commoditized. They're going to award based upon how they feel, or maybe how much they like somebody, or some other variable, right? That it's really, really hard to break out of. And when we start connecting what the business does, right? What's the ROI, the return on investment, that allows you to be able to separate yourself from the noise and sell a completely different solution. Trust me, nobody wants to buy a roof. Okay. Nobody, no one wakes up and wants to buy a roof. What they want is within their business. And that's what we're focusing on. And when we can connect these 3Ds, it makes it very easy for you and your customer to make a decision. And I say you and your customer because, number one, you have to make the decision that if you're even going to proceed with the job, which means you do have the opportunity to say, hey, we're not going to pursue this. It doesn't seem like something that fits our business because it's about product fit, or it's about maybe the timing's not good enough, right? Or whatever it is. We call it the 5 fatalities, but you have the choice to step away and invest your time somewhere else where it's going to be better utilized. And that's the best power that you guys have. The second part is your customer. Your customer needs to make a clear and confident decision, because the number one reason that opportunities die, and I challenge you guys, put it inside the chat, the number one reason that your deals die is because your client doesn't do anything. It's not that it's competition. It's not that you guys are high on pricing. Typically, what I see in almost every contractor that I work with, especially if their close ratio is low, is that they're bidding all of these jobs and the client's not even making a decision.
Yep.
They're not doing anything, which that's worst of all because nobody wins at that point. And that's what we're talking about. That clear decision for you as a sales rep. Do you want to pursue this? Do you want to invest your time, energy, and the company's money, right? To pursue this, to meet with them, to go through the meeting, to go through the roof inspection, to create the proposal, to do all of this different work. Is that something that you want to do? And that's where the perfect buyer's journey comes in. And then the same thing for your customer. So we'll go through that a little bit deeper. But guys, you need to have a process. And that's what we're rolling out here. And that's the reason why we're putting all this together. David, you want to take us through the three soul drainers of sales, sir?
Yeah. So guys, really what this is and what we've been teeing up here is this just isn't like, you can't just walk out of here with like a cool sounding statement of like, yeah, I mean, I'm there to help people. We're really asking you, the vast majority of you guys, to step outside of what every other sales organization, sales trainer has ever taught and preached, which is completely wrong. It's all about how do you get the sales so you can bang on the gong, ring the gong. We're at a car dealership yesterday, they have a big old gong in the middle. My youngest daughter was like, "What's this for, Daddy?" Like, when they sell us a car, whatever car it is, they get to go bang that because they just made money, right? It's like, well, are they helping me get what I need, or are they just trying to sell a car, right? It's just right out there. It's like, goodness gracious. But we're asking you guys to really shift your mindset completely and show up differently. But we do understand that things are the way they are for a reason. And this is what we see as the big soul drainers. The one size fits all syndrome are these very formulaic and these very like generic sources of training. We want you guys to track your activity. We want you guys to understand what your pipeline is so that you guys can see where your conversion is breaking down so you can get very specific training instead of this one size fits all crap. This one liner at the end after you deliver the proposal that's magically going to increase your conversion rate by 20%. It's not going to happen. Not going to impact. It's not going to happen. The other thing is that you guys are just meant to go out there. Most of the time, you have to go shadow whoever the best salesperson in the company is as you came up. And you have to be their clone, either that salesperson or the owner of the company. And you have to become their clone. Well, guess what? You're not their clone. You can't be them. So how can you implement a process of actually helping people solve their biggest problems and be a value to the market without having to go out there and be a clone of somebody that you're obviously not? Be your unique self. And then the last one is everybody is self-interested, and nobody's ever really talked to us about, they don't care about us. They don't care about our company. Hey, Chad, I'm with Acme Roofing Company. How are you? Don't care. Don't care. I don't care. I don't care where you're from, and I don't care if you want to know how I'm doing. None of this matters to me. So not only do they not care about about us and the stuff we're selling, they don't care about the roof, guys. But that's all we want to talk about. We want to talk about the roof. We want to talk about our company. And all this stuff just creates this soul draining exercise of constantly running up against the same problems over and over again, that ultimately leads us into this feeling of like, we're just crossing our fingers. We're just hoping that somebody's going to sign. Right. And that's where we fall into being the zombie sales rep. And that's where we really want to get out of that. We want to get out of this zombie sales rep posture where we feel like we don't have any control. And we call it resurrect. Resurrect your sales results by resurrecting your process and your ability to help people. And that's really the key on all this. So can you go down to the Trinity of Resurrection real quick? So essentially the basic process that we go through, and a lot of you guys are in our programs. Go to the next one. Yeah, there you go. We want to go through, we want to understand your performance. You got to understand your performance, guys. You got to understand your past before you can understand where you can go in the future. But once we understand where your numbers are at, then you can actually start to create a sales strategy around it. Where do you need to increase your activity? How do you need to increase your activity? Are you doing a good job running discovery meetings, et cetera, right? And driving enough high quality quotes. Once you have your strategy set, then you can actually go into sales training that matters. And we call it sales fatality defense training, mainly because of the five fatalities. And this is the big thing, guys. This is like, why are we going through all this? Why? Because you guys already know how your deals are going to end up. You already know the objections that they're going to throw at you. Our entire process is about building in questions that allow you to gather information that keep people from throwing objections at you when those objections need not exist. You should already know that they're going to push back and say, nothing bad is going to happen. Then you got to be ready to be, well, then why are we talking? Why are you worried about this? Your time is valuable. Why aren't you solving other problems if nothing bad is going to happen? Guess what? They're spending time because they are worried something bad is going to happen. And now that'll help them tell you. And we're giving you these concrete ways to handle the conversation so that you can actually help them, not so you can sell them, but so you can actually help them and keep these 5 reasons from getting in their way of actually making the right decision. But you can't control it, guys. If it's not the right time for them to buy, stop trying to convince them it is. Figure it out in discovery from them. Is this the right time to do something about this? You got plenty of problems. Is this the right time to solve this specific problem? If it's not, call a spade and freaking move on. Leverage the perfect sales week prospecting schedule that we give you guys and go get more meetings. Stop depending on the people that you're talking to hit your quota. Just start doing your job. And when you start doing your job and you start helping people, you'll find enough people that actually do need the help. They do need to take action. They do need a new vendor. They do need outside help. And they do believe that you guys are the best solution because you're not just throwing a price over. So all this stuff is already known. Guys, you already know what you're going to bump up against. The 5 fatalities is such a cornerstone of this training, because everything that we're teaching you throughout this entire process is how do you proactively avoid these objections from coming up? Because as soon as they've come up, it's already too late.
Love
As
it.
soon as they tell you this is too expensive, you've already botched it. You're just trying to change their mind. Sorry, go ahead, Jed.
No, you're dead on, right? So we already spoke about the 5 fatalities. Number one, timing. And I've already mentioned that, right? The number one thing that I see within book of businesses are sales reps that are bidding jobs that they should have never bid. And they should have never bid them. Number one, maybe we just needed to bid something this week, so we bid it. We didn't have anything in the books. Or we bid it, we didn't ask the right questions, or we didn't ask the questions that needed to be asked. That's probably a better way of putting it. But ultimately, timing, right? The deal dies because it's not the right time for the customer. We're going to do it next month. We're going to do it next quarter. We're going to push it into the next fiscal year or wherever it is. The problem's not big enough for them to act, right? Second one, competition, right? They can get to it faster. They can get to it quicker. And that has so much to do with the expectation side of this. And I've said this a couple different times before, right? Where we're picking from a similar labor pool. We're picking from a very similar profit margin. It's not like we have double the amount inside most of the companies. So competition is a real thing, and understanding, right, the deliverables and the milestones that it's going to take for you guys to deliver, obviously the solution that you're creating. Price is real, right? So understanding how to beat that fatality of pricing, right? They always going to be a guy in the back of a pickup truck who's going to be cheaper. Always. Whether you see him there or not see him there, he's going to be there. And that's making sure that they truly want the right and long-term solution, right? They don't want to have to do it again. Then we go into trust, right? Trust is a huge, huge part, especially when building with new customers. They have to trust you before they're going to award work to you. So if you show up to a second or third bid at a roof replacement project, I'm sorry, but the trust factor is probably not there, let alone if they've had a service contractor for 10 years that's giving the bid and they just have to get 3 bids in order for corporate to award it. There's a lot that can be said on the trust side that you guys can obviously help mend and help increase the amount of opportunity you have to be able to win the project, especially or I should say, even if you're not the first person to the table. And then lastly, product fit. I see this a lot, right? All of a sudden doing walls or windows or just something above and beyond simply to get the project. And a lot of times what I see is that we overpromise, we underdeliver. And yeah, we may have got the project today, but it doesn't give us the project for next week or next year, right? Because we underdeliver what's there. So really understanding what we do great, and these 5 fatalities is so much a part of a lot of the training, the defense training that we do, and those key strategies to be able to get it together. So knowing and understanding these five fatalities, I know we don't spend a lot of time on it here, but we do want to kind of introduce it, that there are five reasons that your deals are dying. And every time you mark something dead, there is a reason for it. And going back to that autopsy side that David talked about, understanding the past is a great way to be able to change the future, especially if every one of your deals are dying because of one fatality. There's some great things that we can do with it. So, Dave, you want to take us through the three checkpoints, sir?
So the buyer checkpoints guys align to the fatalities. And just like Chad said, what we recommend is at the end of every single month, look at all your close loss deals. If they're still open, that's fine. But if they're close loss, look at them. Try to figure out which one of the fatalities killed them. And as you start to understand the fatalities that are killing your deals, you'll start to see consistency in where your execution is falling down. Well, what does that mean, David? You're going to start to see consistency in which checkpoints are not getting crossed effectively. So, like Chad said, do they need to take action? Timing is the biggest killer of deals. The majority of them just aren't going to do anything. So when you can start to go through and you do a post-mortem of your month, when you do an autopsy of your dead deals, and you're starting to see that a lot of these are probably not going to do anything, and you're finding out after the fact, or you're realizing it after the fact, because you're probably not, oh, you're not going to do it. You're probably not going to do anything about this. I'll get you a quote anyway, right? You're probably just bypassing it. Well, then you can start to see in your process, what do I need to do to get better at checkpoint one? At really clarifying that. And that's what all of our training is about, guys. As you've been here, we give you the buyer's action plan that teaches you how to get through and discover and disqualify, or discover and qualify through each one of these checkpoints. But these checkpoints then mirror up against it. Timing aligns to checkpoint one. We have competition, and price that align to checkpoint two. The vendor that they already have, the maintenance team that they already have is always going to be cheaper, guys. That's really the price that you're worried most about, right? And then the last one, do we have the best solution aligns to product fit and trust, right? And for the guys that want the cheapest price, it was in a conversation today. I actually said, you tell them, yeah, I can get you a cheaper price. I'm sure we have a team that has less experience. I'm sure we have some subs that, they'll do cheaper work. If you're okay with that, here's the ramifications of it, though. If we can't find it, we can't stand behind. We can't do it. So like, just tell me what you want. We can get you the inexperienced team that aren't gonna cost as much money. It's not a price issue; it's a product fit issue. But you're not looking at it in the context of the product fit issue. So the fatalities get eliminated when you're discovering and disqualifying, or discover and qualifying. You're getting the crap out of your funnel. You're making sure that the quotes that you're actually putting through are quality quotes, and they've actually passed the checkpoints, and you have a good opportunity to convert the percentage that you need. And again, you do that through using the buyer's action plan. This is what we go through every single week. We actually give you guys the clear objectives, the 3 to 4 objectives on each one of these that will help you, but put you in position to understand each one of them. You just got to ask the questions, and more importantly, you got to probe. It only puts you in position, guys. Right? We can get you there, but you got to ask. You got to keep digging. You got to keep probing. You got to ask that next question. It gets you there, but you got to go all the way. This is not a mindless exercise. If it was, sales wouldn't be that hard. You guys wouldn't make as much money. None of this would be going on. We make the money that we make because it is difficult, and not anybody can just step in and do it. But with this process, you guys should be able to step in and do it at a higher level than you've ever done it before.
100%. So David made a great point inside here, right? So the perfect buyer journey, it says discover and disqualify. And that has a lot to do with how I look at things, because I make the choice on if I want or I don't want to pursue an opportunity. And I focus a little bit more on disqualifying, right? Because it's so easy to say, oh, you got a roof leak? Yeah, no, we can come out and take a look at that. Or you walk in, and I walk into a Steak and Shake, and there's ceiling tiles everywhere. I was like, oh, this is a perfect place. They need a roof, right? They need quotes. It's so easy to qualify someone based upon the assumption that they have a roof leak, they need somebody. And the fact of the matter is, I think the Steak and Shake has had roof leaks for 6 months and they haven't done anything. So if I gave them a bid 6 months ago, guess what? Timing's the death. They never did anything. The problem's not big enough. They don't, whatever the variables are, right? I focus more on protecting my time, and protecting my time is what allows me to be able to truly invest my time where it needs to be. The customers who actually have a problem big enough that they need to act, right? So really going through that checkpoint is super, super important for me, right? Now, again, in goal, I want my customer to make a sound decision, but this is for me, right? Do they know why they scheduled a meeting? Do they know why they're showing up? When I typically sit down with someone, right, there's a problem or a goal they're trying to solve. Which one is it? That's going to allow me to be able to understand, right? What is this customer A trying to solve if they have a problem? B, where they're trying to get if they have a goal. Or there's been a lot of times, right, where maybe a telemarketing or business development sets it up for me. It's like, yeah, I don't have anything. I'd just be happy to shake your hand. So that means they have no problem or they have no goal, which allows me to be able to quickly shift to that education side. And that's a huge, huge part of being able to say, okay, do they need to act? Because if they don't have any problems, right, that pain's not there. Their perception of reality is everything's absolutely fine. Second, right, if they had to make a decision or if the problem or goal that they're working on, are they the decision maker? Are they responsible for getting the proposals as well as signing off on it? If they're not, or if you miss this question, this can be detrimental. Once you deliver the proposal, you follow up 30 days later and they say, no, I passed that to my manager. He hasn't got back to me yet, which means they've taken your proposal, shifted it over to their manager, probably at 10% of what your actual presentation was. And now it is a true game of hope that whatever is on your proposal is logical enough, easy enough for them to be able to say, yeah, we need to do that, right? Find out if the decision makers are there, because if not, someone else is going to be selling your product, your solution, or whatever it is, right, that you guys are delivering or working on. Find that out. Current reality, have they tried to solve this before
Real
and
quick,
failed? Yeah,
just
go,
add
go, go.
to is the if you find out who the decision makers are and you can't get them on the phone or you can't get them into the meeting, it's okay. The person that you're talking to knows them better than you do. So use them as the resource or through line to get the information. But this is why we give you guys access to 45. You need a place to put the information that you're gathering in a simple link that somebody can click on and go through and review. And that's why we have the stats on there so you know how many times it's being reviewed. If my direct point of contact is Chad, but the decision maker, Paul, is the one that I actually need to be talking to. I can't trust Chad just to talk to Paul. I need to put together the business case on what needs to be happening here. And then I need to ask Chad, hey, can you give me Paul's email just so I can give him, so I can see him on the email with the summary of this so you don't have to worry about it so it doesn't fall through the cracks or give you another, to do on your list of things. And then I can email it. Paul will get it and I can see if Paul's looking at it. I can see if he's getting the information. This is such a key question, guys, because when you don't have the information, you can't do anything about it. But as soon as you do, you can use the tools that we're giving you, like 45, et cetera, to be able to absolutely change the game and not have that decision maker spoil the deal like it happens to so many of you at the end of the process.
Yep, very true. Have they tried to solve this before and failed? This is a question that I see a lot of sales reps miss or being able to scared to ask, right? Have you guys done anything yet? What have you guys tried? Why hasn't it worked? I mean, really going into that deep side of being able to say, talk to me about what's going on, because I can see a roof leak and I can say, oh yeah, that's near an HVAC unit. It's probably the HVAC unit. I can say that, right? And I can say that from my chair. But at the end of the day, when he responds back to you and says, no, it's not the HVAC unit, we've already had a guy come out and take a look at it and they confirmed it's not the unit. It's a whole different world. And if you're not asking those questions, and again, it's going back into it, don't ever assume. Ask the questions, right? What have you guys done so far to try to solve this? You might get the perfect answer, which is we haven't done anything. You're the first guy we're speaking to. It can be wherever it is, but ask the question. Because if you don't, whatever you don't know creates those variables, right? That's what creates that 2 degrees of separation that ultimately could kill the deal at the end. The last one, priority and urgency, right? Are they clear on what's the worst possible outcome if this is not solved, right? So what happens if you guys don't do anything? right? Is the problem big enough to act? Are you catching the water with buckets right now? And if it leaks tomorrow, you're just going to put another bucket underneath it? Well, at that point, they might not actually be interested inside something. They might not actually be awarding it, or they might just wait until, you know what, until it gets worse, or until it gets on one of our machines, or until it destroys products, or whatever the situation is. What's the worst thing that's going to happen if you don't solve it? And sometimes, guys, it's okay if they say nothing. I don't know. I guess there's more water in the back warehouse. That's okay. That's their reality. And that's the reality that they're going to use to either award or not award the proposal that you guys are putting together. And that might be hard to hear, right? But it's true. Their reality is what is going to dictate what they do, not the condition of the roof, not how beautiful your inspection is, anything else. It's all about their reality, right? What are they protecting? What is that roof protecting? And again, just because they don't have roof leaks doesn't mean they're not going to do anything. Maybe it's a data center, right? And the data center has a zero tolerance for roof leaks, and all of a sudden you find a puncture up there that hasn't leaked yet. Beautiful. But it all is about reality. What is their job? What are they trying to do? So figuring out what that urgency is. And the idea of each one of these checkpoints is eliminate the maybe, right? On a scale of 1 to 10, how important is this? Simple question to ask. Might be an awkward question if you're not used to asking it, but it's an inquisitive question on a scale of 1 to 10. How important is this for you guys to be able to solve? How important is it that you guys get this done? And that one question will give you a rating that allows you to be able to understand where it's going to sit on the priority list. And trust me, if it's a 5, 6, or 7, there's things in front of it. And that's going to limit the amount, or the time, I should say, before it comes to the top, it actually gets awarded and you guys get a contract that's sold. Dave, you want to take us through number 2, sir?
Yeah. So once we've been able to figure that out, guys, again, and you guys can always preface this, right? Chad, I know you guys got a lot of things that you're dealing with in the business. With this problem specifically on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate it? Guys, it's very simple to make these questions sound very normal. And when you say that, they're like, oh, yeah, you get me. You know that I'm worried about other stuff. Great. Okay. Now, once we figured that out, okay, this is an urgent priority for them to solve, then and only then do we need to figure out if they need outside help. But we can't encourage you guys enough. Do not pass go. Push back. Okay. Now, if we do figure this out, do they need newer outside help? The first thing we need to figure out was what are the actual problems? What are the bigger problems? And we need to get them aligned to that. Why don't they just have their maintenance team go back out there and try to figure it out? Why don't they just use their existing roofer again and see if the fifth time is the charm, or whatever the situation is? We got to get aligned to the bigger problem and diagnose. We are the experts. Okay. We can't go in there and ask our doctors for Vicodin. They need to go through and do their exam and then diagnose us. And then based on that diagnosis, they will give us a treatment plan. The treatment plan doesn't matter if they don't give us a diagnosis. All right, if somebody came up to you and they're like, okay, here's what I want to do. Boom, boom, boom. And they hadn't gone through and done an exam and actually told you what was going on and got you aligned to a bigger problem, you're not gonna pay attention. So we have to diagnose the problem. Remember, guys, we're more like doctors than anything else. Once we've diagnosed the problem, yeah, go ahead.
Inside roofers term, it's not the stained ceiling tile. Trust me, they're not looking to get the stained ceiling tile fixed. 99% of people, right? It's what's going to happen when that ceiling tile gets wet enough to collapse. What's going to happen when it starts dripping on the floor? What's going to happen when it starts destroying the wall, right? Or mold gets in that wall or wherever it is. That's the bigger problem that we're looking at.
Yep. All right. So from there, then we can figure out what the expected outcomes are. What does that cost? Yeah, slip fall hazards is an expected outcome. What's the cost of that? Ruined product, productivity, data centers, right? But if we can get to an expected outcome of what it's going to cost, then we can get parallel with some understanding of what a solution is going to be and what the cost of a solution should be, because either way, it's going to cost them money. It's that type of asset. They can either spend money to fix it or they can spend the money dealing with it, dealing with the issue and not fixing it, or whatever the case is. But now from there, we can actually have a conversation around budget. Okay, so this sounds like a $200,000 problem. Do you guys typically have budget set aside for problems like this to solve this, or do you just handle it as it comes through? Chad loves that question. It's one of his favorite questions because you figure out if you have a proactive buyer there with that question. You figure out in that moment exactly, is this somebody that plans for this stuff and they're ready to be more proactive, or does this person really just have to potentially see the final string break on this thing for them to do something?
Everybody loves, the buzzword of preventative maintenance and selling all of this kind of different stuff, guys. This is the question right here, right? Whatever your problem is, it doesn't matter. How do you typically budget for something like this? I don't care what your budget is. How do you typically do it? Do you have to submit it to a board where it has to go somewhere else? Do you wait for the roof leak to pop up and then you do something? I remember being in a conversation last year where they said if it's not life safety, they don't do anything. And that was a real response, right?
Yeah.
So I instantly knew that was a reactive customer, that unless that wall literally falls down and gets ready to kill somebody, I don't want to say that's bad, right? But unless something happens like that, like they're not doing anything. And sometimes, as much as you like, man, that's just not right, that's the reality that they're in.
Now you can ask them, so a $200,000 problem, roughly what this looks like. How much do you guys typically put aside or budget to spend on this? And that's how you can actually get to a budget number, guys. But it's a 1A and 1B question. You can't ask the budget number the way that you guys are typically asking, because they know that you're asking, how much can I put in my bid before you say no? And then from there, then we can figure out their gap in ability. So ultimately, why hasn't your team been able to figure this out yet? How come Bob hasn't been able to figure it out? How come Acme Roofing Company hasn't been able to figure this out? What are you thinking? Why do you think they haven't been able to figure this out? And that further drives the gap in their ability and our ability to understand whether or not they actually need newer outside help with this. But if they're telling you, no, I mean, they're great. I don't know. They can probably do it. We just need another bid. Okay, then and you can make a decision right then and there. Push back or not.
These questions, these questions will get rid of your tire kickers that say that they want a roof replacement, right? But when it comes time to you delivering a $250,000 or a $500,000 project where they're blown away, they're sticker shock on how much this is, you didn't ask these questions because they wouldn't be blown away if they had $1 million problem, right? And it was a $500,000 to fix it. They wouldn't be blown away. I've given examples before. Cardboard manufacturing plant, $20,000 for the big cardboard and the skylight was leaking above. 100% real story. That's part of the ROI. That's part of the return on investment, is that they don't have $20,000 cardboard rolls being destroyed. That's the variable that has to be put against it. So creating those things are going to help you. And much like David said, do they need help? Ask the questions. Why don't you just do this yourself? Well, we're not allowed to go on the roof, or whatever the variables are. They're going to tell you if you ask the question. Do not wait until the proposal is delivered to be able to get there. So the last part inside here is, do you have the best solution? And this really comes down to separating yourself from the noise, right? So I'm going to ask you guys, do you have a proven history of solving their unique problems? Okay. Their problems are their problems. How are you guys going to do it? And how are you going to do it better than the rest? So if you don't know what your secret sauce is, if you don't know what makes you guys unique or better than your competition, I'm going to tell you to go back to the drawing board right now. That's what you need to figure out. So do you guys have a proven history of solving the problems? Have you repaired roof leaks? If so, maybe how many have you repaired? What was your success ratio on repairing them the first time? You guys have history and data. We have to be able to put that inside a form that allows you guys to be able to position yourself as the best individual, the best company that's there to be able to help them, again, solve the problems or reach the goals they're trying to get to. So do you have a proven history of solving their problems? Next one, are they clear on how your solution specifically solves their problem? So again, I'm going back to that special sauce. If everybody has the ability to put a 60 mil TPO roof on this, then why are they choosing you? What makes you guys different? And I can tell you a lot of the discovery questions that we went through, right? Are you guys using a vendor right now? No, what went wrong? Well, they didn't communicate. Okay, well, maybe that's part of the special sauce, right? That you guys need to focus on, is that communication is the number one thing. We have daily project reports, da 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 da. All of this discovery will allow you to be able to create a solution that allows you to be able to stick out throughout the noise, understand some of the problems or goals that they have, right? And like David already said, no one cares about the roof. We're going way above and beyond that. And then finally, expectations. This is huge, 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 huge. Anybody can sell a roof, right? The idea behind this is that you want to sell a second roof. And in order to be able to sell something again, it means that whatever your team delivers, it has to be better than what you sold, right? Sales makes the promise, operations delivers on that promise. So make sure you understand what the delivery methods are. If it's a roof replacement, what's load time look like? How long does it take you to be able to get the materials ready? Are you going to have pre-construction meetings? If it's service, great. Go inside there and understand that we're about a week backlogged right now. So expect some type of ETA for probably the middle to end of next week. Figure out what those expectations are, set them, and address them up front. Because if you sell the proposal and then tell them that you're 2 weeks out, and they're like, I need this fixed tomorrow, this is unacceptable, they're upset, da 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 da, that's where it starts going sideways. So do all that stuff up front. Ask the questions up front. Tell them what the deliverable methods are and make sure it aligns to what they have. It's a huge, huge part to ending this, right? Getting through that noise, getting the contract, and making sure that your operational team is set up for success. That really comes back to this, right? Which is we're here to be able to help the customer make a sound decision. If we're this far in the sales process, it means that they've already went past checkbox 1, checkbox 2, which means we're trying to figure out how are we going to position ourselves as the best individual in the room to be able to solve the problem or help the client get to the goal. Notice that I didn't say get the contract. We're helping them solve a problem or helping them get to the goal, right? And that requires the client to be able to make a decision. And that decision needs to be a confident, sound decision from your customer. They know their variables, they know their realities, they know the things that are going to be hard or easy for them to be able to get approved. So work through it. And it really comes down to what we ultimately call the confirmation close. And it's a recap, much like David said. Have a spot. We give you guys access to 45, which we've went through inside, I believe the last one we went through a little bit in the 45 side. But when you guys deliver a proposal, the chances are it's not the next day after you did your initial meeting. You probably went out there, you did the inspection, you met with them, right? Did the meeting, then you did the inspection, then you had to put the proposal together, had to go through estimating, da 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 da. You're back 30 days later, right? On the service side, maybe you're back a couple days later. But at the end of the day, reality can change super, super quick, especially when another contractor shows up and throws a completely different scope of work out. Now you are the high bidder. Now you are out of the loop. Why? Because something changed. You have to have a way to be able to go back to all of that great discovery to be able to make sure that your solution still solves the problem that they have. So looking at this, we talked about those checkpoints, priority, right? How big of a priority is this for you guys? 1 through 10. I know when we last met, it was an 8. Is it still there? Right? Or is it higher? Is it lower? If something changed, figure that out. And figure that out before you put the proposal in their hand. Second one is the ability level. This also should be, we talked about you guys not having any resources to be able to get this done, and your ability level was low. Do you still have, are you guys still at that same point where you don't really have any ability to fix this on your own or using your current contractor, right? Or the contractor that you were using, we're still there. Well, no, that contractor came back and I talked to the owner and the owner said, things can happen. I've had things happen. Figure that out before you deliver the proposal. And it comes down to these 3 questions, guys. Number 1, is everyone still aligned on the problems that we're going to be solving? Remember, it's not the stained ceiling tile. What are the problems that we're solving? What are the larger problems that we're solving? And are you guys clear on how our solution specifically solves it? Which means I'm not just a roofer that's going to go up there and just put TPO, heat weld some TPO and get rid of it. What is it that makes us unique? What's going to separate me from all of that noise? Number 2, is everyone still aligned to the expected outcomes if those problems were to be solved? Right? So are we still all on the same page that if we can fix the skylight issues, we're going to be protecting potentially $60,000 worth of cardboard underneath it that's stored there? Are we still on the same page? And is that enough for us to be able to move forward with a decision? Yeah, definitely. We know we got to get this fixed. We know we have damaged product, right? And then the last question is pretty straightforward. Are we the right solution to help solve the current problems and create the desired outcomes? So you guys have these problems. Do you guys feel that we're the right contractor that has the right background, the right experience to be able to get you guys to where you want to be? These are yes or no questions. This is all before you deliver the proposal, guys. all before you deliver it. Once you deliver the proposal, do not plan on talking to them again because they're going to have their own variables. They have the paperwork inside their hand, they have the proposals inside their hand. And if they have questions, do not assume they're going to be calling you asking those questions. The clarity needs to be there. The separation from the noise has to be there. And you do all of that before you deliver the proposal. David, I know we're right at time, sir, but anything you want to add?
No, again, guys, just implement, start executing on this stuff, and it's all we get to the confirmation close. But so much of this is set up earlier on in the process. So if you guys can go through from a post-mortem perspective and really start assessing what checkpoint are your people or your prospects not crossing, and start implementing the stuff that we're giving you specifically for that checkpoint. Now, guys, we do understand you guys are spending a lot of time trying to generate these meetings, trying to generate these conversations. We get it. You have a meeting, and you're like, oh my God. But you have to have more confidence in your prospecting strategy. You have to. You can't just be clinging on to these quotes. You can't be clinging on to these meetings. You have to know that you can go back to the well and every single week predictably generate 8 meetings. Right? That's what we're teaching all the time. You should be able to generate 8 meetings. And in your ability to do that, that'll keep you stronger instead of trying to just hope that these 3 checkbox get checked, that you're actually confirming if they got checked or not.
Well, all right, guys, that's time. Use it. The one way that you guys can change your future, your sales, all that kind of different stuff is if you take a nugget of this, you take the whole process, whatever it is, use something from it. You have to be able to ask the question. Stop assuming out there. And I tell you that because I'm still in the boat, guys. We still run. We're all humans, and we need a process to be able to help us. So hopefully this guy's got you what you need. And yeah, anything throughout the week. If not, we'll see you next Tuesday, guys. Later.
Great.